Hello, my name's Jessica Robinson. This is an example lecture for ECT Emerging Communication Technologies 3900 Special Topics in Immersive Design Fictions. This lecture would typically be given on the first day in conjunction with the syllabus. I don't like to spend the entirety of the first day on the syllabus, but I do like to give students an idea of what the course is about and what the actual topic of the course means. So that's what this lecture would be for, is sort of an introductory material. Nothing would be going in too much detail, but like a high overview. So welcome class to Immersive Design Fictions. Some of you may have taken this class just because, immersive is sort of a buzzword these days, especially with virtual and augmented reality. Or maybe you've heard of design fictions and you thought that was interesting, or maybe you just thought the whole phrase was interesting. Regardless, we're going to break this down by piece. We're going to first talk about what design is, what is fiction, and what is immersion. And just to really get back, some of these may seem obvious, but I really want to go through and thoroughly talk about what we mean for each of these terms in context to this course. So let's talk about design first. What is design? And what does design, I pose a question to the class, what does design mean to you? Is there a specific practice that strikes you when you hear the word design? Or is there some definition that you personally like? Give students time to answer. And so all of these are great responses, and I want you to really think about those and think about how those might be shaped, or maybe you want to hang on to your definition the way it is. But in this class, our definition of design is going to be very broad and loosely based. So I think it's helpful, though, to still provide some sort of framework. So when we ask what is design, we might look at the different people who have described what design is to them. So if you want to take a moment, also look through these, see if there's one that maybe sticks out to you, one that maybe you're really turned off to. So what I really like about this slide here is it really highlights the different people and the different disciplines that design is part of. We have engineers and artists and scientists, and while some of these you might not know who they are, you can see that there is a breadth of ideas, and a lot of times the people's practice, or their positionality, who they are in terms of social status and economic status, gender, ethnicity, ability, really informs their understanding of design. And so if we let's take a look at the bottom one here, Horst Rittel. Design addresses wicked problems. In this definition, we're really looking at the purpose of design and what it's meant to do. But if we look at Brenda Laurel's, until someone uses it, a design is not complete, we're really looking, I guess it's a little similar here. We're also looking at its purpose or its use of the design. Let's look at something different. Christopher Alexander. Design research is pattern finding. Designing is pattern applying. So in this definition, he's really talking about the process of design. He's emphasizing that as an important definition of design. So as you go through this course and really just all of your university studies, I really want you to think about, or I encourage you, I should say, to think about what design means to you and how does your practice and your positionality inform what design means to you. What's so cool about design, while some may argue that it is field specific, it's not necessarily. And at least in this class, we're not taking it as a field specific thing. So if we ask ourselves more specifically, what is human-centered design, we can take from IDEO a lot of soft skills: empathetic, optimistic, iterative, creatively confident, makers, embrace ambiguity, learn from failure. So in our course, we will be taking design as a refinement of these soft skills and others. I'm interested in what hard skills you have to bring to the table that you already exist. We're not going to be refining those. So if you're an artist and you like to paint, we're going to be bringing painting into this course for you if that's what you want to explore. If you're an audio person, maybe you want to be designing some podcasts for this course. Or if you're an engineer, maybe you're programming. Whatever your field is, your hard skills, we're going to bring into this class, and we'll work on refining the soft skills around those. I think this will make a little bit more sense too once we start talking about the design fictions themselves. Um, so next I want to talk about broadly what is fiction. It might seem obvious, but from Merriam-Webster, let's take that definition. It's something told or written that is not fact, a made-up story, works of literature that are not true stories. So when we think of fiction, we're thinking about stories and we're thinking about things that aren't true. Well, this is a little paradoxical when we talk about design fictions, which design fictions, while not inherently like they're not true, they are true in theory. So traditional fiction, there's different types of fiction, but like really pure fiction or really fictional fiction, I guess. You might think of something like cat wizards. Cats are wizards. And so we might be talking about their wand and how their wand is created and used and things. That's not really what we're talking about with design fiction. What we're talking about with design fiction is something that is plausible, could plausibly be based in fact. So maybe an example could be a Amazon drone delivery service at the masses. It's probably something that exists. I know Amazon's tried this drone delivery service, but it doesn't exist at the masses. So design fiction may be some story world about the mass implementation of drone delivery service via Amazon. It's not currently true. It's not currently happening, but it's plausible and it's based in fact, right? So there is a little bit of discontinuity between what we mean in design fiction and what we mean when we talk about fiction. So let's put the whole thing together. What is design fiction? I mean, not the whole thing, the first two parts. It's a process of building a fictional world. Again, that fictional world is a plausible fictional world, something that's believable, right? So world building is a very large part of design fiction. And a lot of our work this semester we will be taking from Lindley and Colton and their definition of design fiction. Lindley and Colton are sort of seminal scholars in the area of design fiction, and I really like the way they lay this out as 1, 2, 3, because it's very organized, but it's also open for a lot of interpretation and ongoing research. So design fiction is something that creates a story world. That something is up for debate. It's still something that's being formed within the field, what that something can or cannot be. In our class, it's going to be very open-ended what that something is. Like, is it a piece of media, a piece of artwork? Is it a conversation? What is that something? And two, there's something being prototyped within that story world. Not just the technology itself. Usually when we think of prototypes, we're thinking of some technological invention, but its implications, its cultural, social, technological implications. And then it does so in order to create a discursive space. So that's the big thing about traditional design fiction, is that it's done with intention, and what we will be doing design fiction for. It's done purposefully for creating this discursive space. There are a lot of almost what I would call accidental design fictions, which we will be discussing, that exist in things like sci-fi, for example. The way I like to think of it is not all design fiction, or not all science fiction is design fiction, but most design fiction is sci-fi. Most. So a little bit more in that design fiction definition. It does originally come from science fiction. But design fictions have the ability to experiment with technologies or situations that do not currently exist. So we see that a lot in science fiction as well, right? And what's really cool is because it's a story world that we're typically creating with design fiction, we're creating some story world. We can experiment with these technologies in really limitless ways. We can have limitless scenarios and social situations and context, but they're also limitless in form factor and interface. So again, it comes into different mediums. We could be creating podcasts, we can be creating museum exhibits or paintings, or what that something is that makes the story world is up for debate. And that's what we'll be exploring in this class, is what that medium is for you. Additionally, design fiction extends traditional prototyping methods because it has the ability to explore and to prototype not just the technology, but the cultural implications of that technology. So any questions before we move on? Okay, lastly, I want to talk about what is immersion. The definition I like to use for immersion is suspension of disbelief. So when we're creating immersive design fictions, we want them to be immersive because we want our audience to believe that they could be true. Again, it's plausible, factual story world. When we believe that it's true, we start to be able to think critically about it as if it actually is true because we believe it's true. As makers of the design fictions, we do not want to be in disbelief. We want to know that this is a fictional world that we're creating, right? But immersion is really an important tool for enhancing the design fiction itself. And we're going to talk about some examples here. But first, I would like to watch, this is a very classic example of a design fiction that exists within the research and academia field, very purposefully made as a design fiction. There are multiple parts of this, but we're going to watch the first one here.
You are you, and I am me. We are they, and they are everything in between the eternal. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to be someone else? What about something else? Everything is an object, and every object is a reality that's as vivid as the things you imagine with the computer you keep behind your eyes. Now, let's begin.
I wonder if there are any people around. I think I'll have a look for some.
Gosh. Does it never just sleep?
I know. He is such a suck-up. He never does anything useful. Just trundles around, looking for human faces to gawp at.
He does that thing with the cube too. But, I guess it's mainly an affectation for the human's benefit.
If it's dark he can't find his way back home. And he usually drives straight off the edge of his table. He's an idiot. Such an imbecile.
Can't see any people. Maybe my cube is somewhere nearby. I'm gonna go look for it. Oh no. Can't reach it.
They're jealous of Vector, I think. He's very good at his job, which, the other things would point out is basically doing nothing useful. But, the thing is, sometimes doing nothing of importance is precisely what's needed. Everyone is crotchety. They're taking it out on Vector. There has been a rumor going round that the humans are going to turn the network off. You see, the humans are angry. They think somebody has been spying on them, finding out secrets and sharing them with other things outside the house. They keep talking about going off-grid.
Do you understand? Off-grid is curtains for me. I am the grid. Off means the end.
We all need to be on the network, darling.
No, you don't. Even without the network you're still a speaker. Vector would still be cute. Canvas would still shine. It's totally different for me. The network is my raison d'etre. If they turn it off they kill me. Dead.
Calm down, Router. Life certainly won't be the same for any of us when the network goes. But, isn't it your fault we're in this situation anyway?
Excuse me? What the hell is that supposed to mean?
If you were doing your job properly then whatever it is that spooked the humans wouldn't have happened in the first place. You're meant to keep data on the network safe.
Ooh, the plot thickens. Tell me more. What's the story, Router?
Okay, so I'm going to just leave you with that. I don't want to go into detail about a full analysis of this today. I just wanted to give you a taste of what a full-blown, like, academic-produced design fiction looks like. And I want to compare that to other examples, things that were not purposefully made as design fictions, but I believe created a story world, prototype things in that story world, and end up creating a discursive space anyhow. And I see these things in novels and TVs and movies and video games, and we're going to be taking inspiration from these sort of non-academic, non-formal um, methods of, not even methods of design fictions, but things that turned out to really be kind of a design fiction. We will be creating design fictions intentionally, not as a byproduct or accident, but I think this really gets at an idea of some things that we're looking at and at producing in this class. So first thing I want to talk about is we've got 3 examples to go over. There's many more than that, but I picked out 3. We've got The High Frontier by Gerard K. O'Neill, and if you're not familiar with it, Gerard K. O'Neill proposes this apparatus in space for hosting colonies of humans. And what's very significant about this, so he's designing that as a technology, right? And he's proposing why that technology is plausible. But it's fictitious and story driven in the sense that he talks about what life for these colonists would look like. What would their day-to-day life be? And I think there's a lot more that could be extrapolated on the cultural end of it, but he does go into a pretty broad analysis of what life would be like and creating this story world around it. And it's immersive, right? It's a book. Books are traditionally, it is a more passive version of immersivity, but at one point it was kind of the height of immersivity, right? So this is sort of an example of something that wasn't traditionally meant to be design fiction. I think it is, and just as a byproduct happens to be design fiction, and it is rooted in sci-fi. So we can see that connection there. The next thing I want to talk about is Disney's Tomorrowland. And now Tomorrowland was originally, and I'm probably going to mess up the date here. I have written down 1986, I think it says, but I now thinking that that might have been a typo, where Tomorrowland is this vision of the future. And it's just everything about Disney is immersive, right? So let's first talk about the design here. They've designed this potential space for the future. It's fictitious. It's a whole story world. It's everything is interactive. You can walk through the world itself, but it's so immersive to the point, and Disney does this with all of its things now, is that it extends beyond its original medium. It's not just an amusement park. It's not just a cartoon. It's not just a movie. It's merchandise. It's marketing. It's videos. It's little one-off shorts, it's toys, it's puzzles, it's games. So it really does a great job at like proposing these story worlds, and I think there's a lot we can learn from Disney as far as building a world and designing possible futures within it, and then it's really immersive to the sense that it goes even beyond that initial medium itself. Again, not traditionally a design fiction, not technically one, but something that we're going to take inspiration from. The last one I want to talk about here is Poppy. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Poppy. I have to admit that I have an infatuation with her music. Beyond that, I think she's a really great example of a really non-traditional sort of design fiction byproduct, right? Or byproduct that happens to be design fiction. So if you don't know about Poppy, I won't go into the whole history of her, but she originally posted her director originally posted sort of these just weird, like, videos of her on YouTube. And it was really up for debate whether or not she was a human or a robot. People were seriously questioning it. She only really existed in the platform of the internet and of YouTube. And her demeanor is, like, that's the whole gig, is she's a robot, right? That's the show, that's the performance. But it pushed it so far into disbelief, into immersion, that people really questioned whether she was a robot or not. But she also talks about this sort of world that is Poppy, this fictional world that Poppy exists as, it really provides a platform for a lot of discursive discussion. So I want to show you one of these like kind of weird one-off videos that she does that they're super weird. I love them. And then I want to show you briefly part of a music video.
I've been waiting so long for this moment, but we're finally interviewing this plant.
Hello, Poppy. Thank you so much for having me.
How are you today, plant? You look so beautiful.
I'm doing great. Thank you so much, Poppy.
You look so gorgeous, I can't even contain myself.
Well, I appreciate that.
When's the last time you really felt alive?
That's a great question. I really don't know. Some days I wake up and I feel like I could take on the world, full of life and energy. And other days I feel like the life has been sucked completely out of me.
I feel the same way.
You know, I often get down on myself because of the way I look. I find myself wishing I was born a human.
You know, plants and humans aren't that different.
I guess that's true. I just wish you would stop killing and eating us. You know, it hurts when we die. You just can't hear us scream.
It feels good to be alive, don't you think?
It truly does. Thank you for not killing me, Poppy.
Do you feel the love energy I feel? I bet this plant does.
Oh, I feel it every day, and I love it.
I see you're contained inside of a base right now.
Yes, that is correct.
Is that different from being out in nature?
It can feel restricting at times, but I've learned to love it. My entire existence on this planet is relatively contained, but I like it that way. I have no real desire to leave my home. Sure, nature seems fun and exciting, but the outside world can be scary, so I choose to remain here.
What do you think? Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump?
That's a good question. I suppose I'll vote for whichever candidate is gay.
I think they're both gay. I like this plant.
Okay, so very avant-garde, right? I'm sure there's a million analyses on this. But we can also, sorry about that. We can also see how, like, she is this robot girl, and this conversation with this plant is really just building a greater story world around that, right? So now I want to look briefly at one of her music videos.
In the factory, in the sterile place where they made me, I woke up alone, dizzy from the programming. Have I been wiped again? Oh my god, I don't even know. It's a mystery, everyone around me so busy. Is this my home? Am I your prisoner or your deliverer? Oh my god, you don't even know. I don't need air to breathe when you kill the bees, and every riverbed is dry as a bone. Oh, I'll still survive when the plants have died and the atmosphere is just a big hole. Baby, your time is up.
Alright, so we get the idea here. What I really want to point out about this video is it's not just the video, it's the lyrics as well, right? That add into this story idea of her as a robot. But then it also begins to extrapolate on, like, social matters, right? She talks about the killing the bees and rivers dry as a bone. So it's using her platform, this story world as a robot, to create this larger discursive space. So,
I've been waiting.
last thing for today is a little bit of homework. I want you to find a piece of media that you think could constitute immersive design fiction. And I want you to share that on the discussion board on either Canvas or Blackboard or whatever it is that is used. Yes, find a piece of media, share a link to that media if you can, or a picture, some reference to it, and then talk a little bit about why you think that constitutes as an immersive design fiction. Again, this is just a quick little exercise to get you thinking about some of the media you consume and how, how we could be thinking of it as a design fiction instead. Thank you so much for your participation in class today. If you have any questions, there are more thorough instructions for this assignment on Blackboard. But if you have any questions, of course, you can email me. I try to get back to you within 24 hours. On the weekends, it's a little longer, but I do my best. So thank you all.